I feel like you get beginner's luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a thing. You know, when I first started, God was like, okay, we want you to make it. So just here's all the business.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I leapt and it was things to meet me. Like literally I had my last paycheck and then like 3 weeks later, I got my first client money to replace the paycheck. And then from then on, that's how much of a leap it was for me.
Today, we have an incredible guest joining us on the channel. Her name is Khaleeqa Rouse, the founder and chief creative officer of Real Well Media, the agency that has helped me launch content across all of the various social platforms, including this one. Khaleeqa's journey began after graduating from business school, where she dove head first into the nonprofit sector. In 2020, Khaleeqa took the bold step and launched her own company, Real Well Media, in response to the growing need for organizations to pivot into the digital space. Today, she and her team at Real Well are dedicated to creating content that improves people's lives. During our session today, we were going to chat about what comes next for her and her startup and what she needs to do in order to take her business to the next level. All right, Khaleeqa, thank you for coming out from behind the camera and joining us here on the channel. For those that don't know, we've been working together for 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
And anything that you've seen on the channel, she created. She helped me create. But for the full background, could you just kind of catch us up on how did we get here in your story?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the channel. I'm happy to be out from behind the scenes. So I have a company called Real Well Media, and we basically create content around for personal brands everywhere, everything from TikToks to Reels to podcasts to YouTube channels, which we're on now.
Yeah.
We do all the branding, we conceptualize the strategy, and I've been doing it for close to 15 years. I was doing it for myself for a long time. I remember my mom was the camera crew, and I had all my outfits hung up and my scripts written. Yeah. And I just realized in the pandemic how there was such a need for people to pivot and get online, but they didn't know how to do it.
Okay.
And so I was kind of in a job that I didn't really love, and I just felt like, okay, now's the time to just take this massive leap. I've never owned a business. Okay. You know, I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I launched in 2021. Okay. And I reached out to you maybe like a year and some change into it. So I've had a few clients, got some I feel like you get beginner's luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a thing. You know, when I first started, God was like, okay, we want you to make it. So just here's all the business.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I leapt and it was things to meet me. Like literally I had my last paycheck and then like 3 weeks later, I got my first client money to replace the paycheck. And then from then on, that's how much of a leap it was for me. I didn't have any savings, nothing. Yeah. And so I was in a time too where I was like trying to figure out what I was doing, and I saw you online. You've been introduced to a mutual friend, and I was like, wow, he has something to say. You're very very interesting, the coolest background ever, just such a collection of different experiences. And I was like, wow, do you need help? And that's how our, journey started.
Yeah, I love it. When you think about going from being on camera to then being behind the camera. Yeah. What's the biggest shift you had to make for yourself?
I think that a lot of people make content initially because it's like kind of an ego thing, right? Okay. Like you want to look good. You're so hyper focused on the people's perception of you that it waters you down a lot. Because you're not thinking about how you can help them. You're thinking about how they see you. Sure. And so I think that was a big shift in even the success of clients, or how I've transitioned, is the purpose of content is to enrich, entertain, make someone's life better. You always want them to land on something that you've created and have a positive association with it that benefits their life. Right. And I find that the most successful people have made that pivot mentally to be like, I'm actually serving the people who are watching this instead of them serving my own ego.
Right, sure. So in kind of thinking about now having clients that are now in front of the camera, what do you say to them? Because you talked about some of them having an ego.
Yeah.
And I think that it seems to me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm your client, but it seems to me that you're pretty discerning now with who you are wanting to work with.
Yeah.
The stories that they're telling.
Yes.
If somebody comes to you ego first, what do you do?
Yeah, that initially, like in my first year, that was hard. Like I definitely parted ways with clients. And I just needed money in the beginning.
Yeah. Sure.
I had to pay my rent and I had to live and I had to eat. But I actually feel like when you're in alignment with the people that are supposed to come to you, that you don't have to sacrifice like your values of how you want to do your business for someone else. And so it took like a lot of podcasts, a lot of personal development to realize like, yes, I can do a money grab and have somebody like who has this huge ego and I make videos for them and make them look beautiful. And they're like, oh my God, thank you. And we'll just keep paying you money.
Right.
Or I could do things that like I would actually watch and I believe in and I want to share with my family and friends. And I actually feel like that's more wealthy or successful because then I'm going to do a better job at it. And then it's going to attract more of the people that I want to work with.
Right. The people that you want to work with, you mentioned a few of the characteristics of them, but what's your non-negotiables?
Well, one now from having a lot of pain around this is I don't compromise on my prices. I've in the beginning learned the hard way and like ate it on the back end where I was doing things for free. I was charging people at cost and I wasn't calculating my time.
Yeah.
And so now I have an accountant, which if you're in business, you need an accountant.
100%.
And she said, track your time. And then I realized, oh, wow, I'm kind of undercharging.
Right.
So price is probably a big non-negotiable. And then I think another non-negotiable, and I'm like live thinking this because this is such a great question and I haven't really thought about this a lot before. It's something I've kind of felt. Maybe the question, would I watch this content myself? Like, I don't want to just make something that I wouldn't watch or anyone who I know would watch. And I know that's like very niche. Like I am a demographic, I'm a Black woman of a certain age and, you know.
Right.
I think if the content is good, then it resonates past all of those things. Yeah. And so for me, if what someone has to say isn't maybe something that's uplifting the world in the way I know I can, I won't align. Like I had an opportunity to help like an MMA boxing kind of content in that. And that's totally entertaining and that's great. Could I do it? Possibly, but it's not necessarily something that I have vision for or can align to. Yeah. And so I just turned it down, you know?
Yeah. You know, with the amount of people that are starting to see the content that you've created for me and for others, inbound is starting to be more of a part of your business.
Yeah.
But before that, you had the inbound flowing into the funnel.
Yeah. What
was the outreach like? What was the outbound part of your journey?
Yeah, that was really tough. You know, I do believe in like there's all this crap on the internet about like feminine energy and masculine energy and like being in your feminine is attracting what you want. But for me, there's actually some truth to that. And so I naturally am very type A, very aggressive. I'm like, I come from the finance world selling life insurance where you had to cold call X amount of people every day in order to meet your quotas. I listened to your story when you told that and you were successful at it. I did that same thing and I wasn't. I just don't think that like that kind of aggressive going out there is a part of my story and getting the revenue and the attraction, like the way I'm wired, and maybe call it feminine or masculine, whatever it is, it just doesn't work. And so I, in the beginning was like, I have to reach out to 5 potential clients every day. I want to have a business. I want to have a book of business that's about 10 to 15 clients. I don't want to grow past much more because I want to do well for those clients. And so I was like, I need to reach out to 5 a day, every day. And I was doing that and it was horrible. I was reaching out to people and you get some hits, but it was hard. And I was getting referral. Like I was reaching out within my network and it was still kind of weird. And then I was like, all right, let me do inbound marketing. I know content is king. So I had our guy, Rich, who's filming us right now. He came and, did videos for me. I filmed like 30 videos and was like, okay, let me start putting them out. And they did okay, but it just wasn't it. And so that was hard.
Yeah.
Because I had bills to pay and people to pay. And yeah, it was really tough. But I think one thing I love about what you talk about a lot is, I don't even think you knew you were saying it in the way I received it, is about expectations. And to me, expectations comes in the form of expansion. And so you said something once where you're like, I don't own a private jet, but I want to own one. So I know everything there is to know about private jets. And so that's kind of was my shift for me. I started to research and make myself acquainted with the people that I wanted to be my clients. And that expansive mindset actually, I think, attracted people to me because I wasn't like, hey, can you, can we get a meeting? Or, it wasn't desperate, I guess.
Yeah. Well, also there's an expectation of what's possible in the way that you just explained it. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Because I always say that if a guy's at a bar at 1 a.m. and he needs to get laid, he's not getting laid. Right? Everyone know he's there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
and you can spot that person a mile away.
Absolutely.
If it's end of the month and you got to make your quota and you're making calls, people are like, yeah, call me in 3 days. You're like, I can't. I need you to close right now. Right? And so balancing the need to pay bills and like your daily bread with the mindset of expansiveness. What was that tension like?
Very hard. I had a really rough period at the end of the 2022. And even going into 2023, it was like really tough. I had a client that went viral, like millions of views. But it was kind of negative and I felt really guilty about that. She kind of got roasted, but it was like people at both sides. And so it was like a really weird time for me. And I remembered I like very tangibly could have been seized by this fear that was like very apparent because I had a client cut back. I had this client go viral for like a crazy reason, or I could lean into the vision that I had for my business. And so one of the ways I overcame this was meditating. And I started to meditate every single day about the type of business that I want. I literally would sit there and visualize it. I would visualize my studio. I would visualize the content. And every time I had fear, I just didn't let those thoughts fester for too long. It doesn't mean there were times like I was like literally breaking down crying, like, why did I start this? I should just go get a regular job again. What am I doing? But I had belief that like I was on the right track. And so after that, like dark night, I think life changed because I was like holding on to a new vision of what my business and my life could be.
Yeah. Love that. Is in sitting with the pain.
Yeah.
There's some lessons there.
So many.
What pain are you sitting with right now?
The pain of allowing myself to rest and enjoy my life a little bit more. I think there is a lack mentality in that, like, I think our culture teaches us, like, you have to grind to earn and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And when I listen to you and like other people who have a level of success, they're not working like they're working like we work, but they're not killing themselves. It's not like hustle standard time. But that's a mindset shift, because if you actually believe that you have to work 90 hours a week to get what you want, then that's what life will give you. Yeah. But if you believe that you can get to where you want working more reasonably, then that's what life will give you too. Yeah. And so that pain is what I'm like deconstructing the limiting beliefs that are telling me like you have to kill yourself to have $1 million business.
Right.
And I just don't believe that anymore.
Yeah. So it's not the pain of the rest, it's the pain of the belief about the rest.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. you're talking about scaling and getting to the point where you could have that choice, right? Because there's certainly times where it makes sense to be out of balance.
Yeah.
As long as you know you're out of balance and you can let everybody else know, hey, I'm going to be out of balance for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like when you were launching Jenny and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hi, Jenny. When you think about the next step, the next, as a solopreneur with a team of contractors.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about the next step, the next out of balance that you might achieve after big life event coming up for you, here in the not too distant future, but maybe there's a Q4 push. What does the next chapter of this business look like?
Well, I am working on hiring my first full-time employee.
Okay.
So I've worked with my accountant to create a business budget, and she has a revenue target for me to hit, which is like perfect for someone like me. I'm like, just tell me the number and I'll get there.
Right.
And so we're looking at like the end of this year for that person to be full-time, which is like a huge deal for me. And so that, and then learning how to hire good people is also a stretch goal for me, because I made the mistake of hiring my friends. Sorry, friends, if you're watching. But I love you, but it's not always the greatest in a business situation. And so I'm getting out of that and actually having to learn a stretch skill set, which is how do you build a team for what I'm doing. I've built other teams before, but not specifically for this.
Yeah. What do you know about yourself that is important for that team member to know when they join you?
This is a good question, because I honestly beat myself up in the past for how I've been a leader and a boss. I ran a nonprofit with like 25 employees. So I've had experience leading people. But I have very high expectations, like very high levels of like, this has to be perfect. And I feel like the stakes are high in what I do. Like, you can't put crap out there on someone else's name. Sure. And even if someone makes a mistake, I always eat it for anybody, because I'm like, that's the position I'm in. And so it's not necessarily that, I'm not a person that goes crazy, like if something's not done right, but I think understanding that there's a high level of standard and that we strive to do the best possible, like within your capacity, is probably something someone should know coming on the team. Because I think I shouldn't say anything less. I know I shouldn't say, but if someone doesn't carry themselves in that way, then it's really hard for us to work together, because it's like they're not committed to fully showing up for what they're doing.
Sure. No one will ever believe in your business as much as you do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. But what is something somebody has to be able to, how far does somebody have to be able to get in the belief about this business for you to say, that's the person I want to get in the trenches with?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess I think of it a little bit different. I kind of, like, I know that someone who I would hire might not be a lifer. Like, I don't even know if I'm a lifer in my business right now.
100%.
But I think for me, I see it as, are you committed to getting good at the skill set that you've signed on for? So like, I kind of suss that out. I want to make sure whoever I'm talking to is like, I guess, has some level of commitment and growth within the role that they're trying to grow in. Say I'm hiring a videographer, right? And they love film. It's like something they've always done. I know at some level that they're going to always be trying to grow and get better at that, even if it's not just for my company. And that's, I think, across the board. So I'm open to just someone having passion about that particular thing that they're doing. Right. Is a green flag for me, because I know it's like, I'm a startup. It's not a lot of security. I don't have benefits yet. Right. But if they're committed to what they're doing, then I think it works really well. Yeah.
In thinking about, somebody coming on and not being a lifer, right?
Yeah.
My dad retired from the same company after 40 years, right? First job out of college was the only job he ever had, like the only company he ever worked for. Yeah. And I think I've probably had 40 jobs, like 40 companies that I've worked with, since I graduated college 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When you think about somebody being with you for a period of time as a boss, what do you feel like your responsibility is to a person who comes on, whether it's for a few projects or a few years?
I definitely lean more towards helping them level up their own skill set and their own experiences. And so I think as a leader, I'm really committed in their personal growth. Like I want to see them shine, do well. I want to put them in opportunities to take risk and to just own it, even if they make mistakes. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I'm just committed to their growth. Like if they see something and they're like, hey, Khaleeqa, I think we can actually grow a public relations arm on this. Sure. Can I start sending out emails to, different media outlets? 100% yes. And I'll back you. What do you need? How much do you need, et cetera?
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing I'm committed to.
Yeah. When you think about all of the different things that are kind of swirling,
being
a very systems oriented person, which I, as a client, very much appreciate. When you think about growth that's ahead of you and the scalableness of what you're trying to build, what systems are not yet in place that you think will have to be?
Well, I have a very healthy love of AI. I mean, it's literally changed my whole business and way of doing things. I think one of the biggest one of the systems that has to be put in place is a system for me to train other people who are coming into Real Well Media. Like I know how to do so much, and I learned technology pretty quick, but I'm working with my project manager now to create training videos and things that I can begin to train other people and systematize my own genius.
Sure.
And that is a hurdle because like I could rock out on your account and just totally crush it and just be fine. But then you start to multiply that and then things just can go haywire. So I need to train other people to be like just as excellent and, and be in service to them too, because leveling up their training is only going to help them. So
right. And it's going to help tell more of the stories that we'd all want to watch.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Andy. Oh, this is great.